floors, for example. Then you get buyers from the African sector that would buy singular because they're still starting out and seeing the light, if I can say so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yours is particularly singular residential, I would say. Joe, when I was here 3 years ago, there was a lot more upbeat, a lot more positive. I understand that things have been slowed down a bit, but prior to the slowdown, where was the cross-border investment coming from, and what was it looking at?
To sort of specifically talk about the area in which I operate, I suppose, which is more the institutional market, we see very little foreign investment coming into Botswana. There are a few reasons for that, but mainly the pricing here is expensive. If you're looking at Botswana from the outside, those investors are likely, I suppose, first to come from South Africa, where they can get higher returns in their local market without taking the risk of going cross-border. So Botswana struggles there. The reason we're an expensive market, we have the governance and there's an attraction on that side, but we have a lot of competition for the best quality property. Unlike when you travel elsewhere outside of South Africa in the region, we have 6 listed property funds. We have a substantial government pension fund, which has a number of direct, one of them sponsoring today, who are all competing for property, as well as individuals, large families. So it's difficult to enter that market from the outside. There's a lot of competition amongst that set for a very limited pool of assets. So from where I sit, the question is really more those guys looking to go outside.
Okay. And we'll talk about that as well, and Aditya will get back to you. But I think, apropos the previous speaker, I mean, what it appears from the outside, from what you're saying, is you have a lot of land which can't be developed, therefore everybody's chasing that little bit of land that is, and therefore it's unlikely you're going to get too many cross-border foreign investors coming in because they might be able to get better returns elsewhere. Is that a good summary?
That is a good summary.
Okay. Aditya, is there anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, obviously I'm a private investor, very different from an institutional investor or a pension fund. And I think I want to talk about the other way in terms of more than investors trying to come into Botswana. I think there's lots of advantages for Botswana. We actually have a system that works here with a deeds registry that while it can take a while, it will give you a deeds register. You know that that title deed is securable. There's enough financing available, but not at the moment, but traditionally there has been enough financing available and relatively cost-effective financing available. So Botswana's had a series of admirable things to be able to develop this real estate sector. Obviously some drawbacks, but what I want to talk about is, as somebody who's based here in Botswana, it's been a great kind of foundation to be able to branch outwards as well. Because what I actually find when you go into other markets, and even other smaller markets similar to us, the Swatinis and Sutus, the Namibias of the world, is Botswana actually has a fairly well-developed real estate sector comparatively. So you find a lot of good stock, right? And when you go into these other markets, you actually don't find as much good stock. So there is a lot of opportunity to actually take the learnings that we've made here, fund from here, because financing traditionally, again, I feel temporarily we are in a liquidity crisis. But to actually raise funding here, release equity here from your previous developments and actually go and deploy it in these other markets, because there's very attractive returns comparatively. It also allows you to kind of diversify your currency base and the market you're in.
Okay. And would you say that you're seeing people from Botswana, if they're going out, and it might be the funds, it might be private families, etc., are they going within the African context? I mean, I think, for example, a lot of funds in South Africa went to Eastern Europe, and they did particularly well. Some didn't do, but most generally, if they looked after their investment properly, did well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to go into markets that you've got some connection with. You're not just going to blindly go into it. So I think like Dubai has been very attractive because it's well advertised. There's a lot of data that's available about what's happening there. I think Eastern Europe, similarly, good amount of data, and there was some connection to South African companies throughout. I also think there's the big currency issue, right? In a lot of these foreign markets, like we've invested into euro-based and dollar-based investments, you're bridging and hedging that currency fluctuation that we have here. Botswana Pula lost a tremendous amount of value within the last few months, and there's talk of it losing more value, right? Now you're hedging against what you invested here with those investments outside. That being said, Africa has a huge demographic. Africa has an enormous real estate requirement, right? So there is a lot of opportunity on the continent. And I actually think as those of us who live here on the continent, if we're not willing to take those opportunities and we're going to leave that only to foreign funds to come in, I think we're leaving something out.
Okay, I think that's a good positive view. Marilyn, what's your experience been?
Well, and you